The super saga. I'm almost done.
Okay, well, can you almost done? Or wait, like you just turn. You were leaning into it now.
It's like ASMR.
What's your fucking problem?
People love that. They love hearing people eat.
Also, I want
people make $1 million. I
want that bowl and spoon back too, because every time I give you something in a bowl and spoon, you end up, somehow it's missing now.
Well,
that was a set of 7, by the way, and those are the last 2 I have, the ones that you guys have.
Well, I only need 2 more to complete my set.
So you are stealing my bowls.
No, I just got some more.
Please get them out of the utility. Actually, no, you know what? Keep them, because I don't want to know what the fuck you use bowls for. So.
Are they in your car, Teddy?
I'm thinking like castaway situation.
I don't got a car. Thanks for rubbing it in, Donna. Donna, look at me. I'm Donna. I got a car. I go to gas stations and I do other things other than harass the attendants. Because I can pump up a car.
That's what you do. She can go to gas stations because she has a car. You just go to gas stations to harass the attendants.
It's because because I'm not able to do more things there.
What are you doing?
Once I have a car, I can spend my time filling up my car.
How is that the gas station attendant's fault?
Because when I'm at a gas station, it's like you have to get ready. You have to prepare. You have to make sure you're wearing pants that don't got holes in them. You gotta make sure that you look cleaner.
What are you talking about? To be a gas station attendant?
No, to go to a gas station.
That's not true at all.
Sometimes the bouncer will turn you away. I've been kicked out of gas stations. They wouldn't let me come to the front door. One was a really mean old lady.
I should explain to you that Teddy says stories like this a lot where he's definitely leaving a lot.
She had varicose veins. Yeah. I said, I'm going to kick your varicose veins.
He's probably barefoot, covered in actual shit. The bouncer was just some guy walking out of Speedway who was like, yo, bro, you can't be doing that shit here. No. He's just like, oh, I can't come in here.
You said I can't come in. I said, what? I'm going to come in. I'm going to get what I need to get.
Why? Okay, yeah.
It was about to be Thanksgiving. I had to make a charcuterie board. So I needed to get some Slim Jims.
Charcuterie.
And I needed to get some different Takis and things like that. And different
kind of nuts. Did I tell you I had an idea? Shark Tank too. For a little, it's a charcuterie board, but it's like a mini one, kind of like a Lunchable. And I'm going to call them Charcuteables.
Charcuteables.
Love it.
That's fun.
Who's in Sharks?
Sharks. Is it made of shark meat?
No, that's Shark Tank. All right. Well, hey. So, moving on with John Ramsey here.
John Ramsey. Donna, stop eating. I'm Teddy Ronald Reagan Dismack here.
And I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
And this is
JonBenét Today.
And now back to John Ramsey's episode, part 2. In the really long time that I've spent going through a bunch of John Ramsey footage here, there's been a lot of stuff that's come up that's pretty similar. So I want to bring up the fact that there's an interview that I found very interesting because all the reports I've seen says they have a PR firm, in which John Ramsey says that they don't have a PR firm. Donna, can you go ahead and, if you're done eating your soup, thank you.
Hey, focus, Donna.
Shut up.
We're not hiding behind anyone.
And let me say one more time, we said this the last time the governor accused us of hiding behind our attorneys and PR firm. We have no PR firm. There were no attorneys present at the Barbara Walters interview or the Katie Couric interview. There are no attorneys present here today.
So
and they went in the room. There was no PR people or attorneys in the room.
Well, they said they don't have a PR firm.
They don't PR firm.
It's like they're also very selective with their words, but it's like, yeah, well, maybe attorneys have a PR firm.
Yeah,
so
maybe they offer PR services for that kind of money. I mean, we're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell level attorney. We're talking about Lynn Wood. They got people or they know people where they're like, hey, spin this, do this.
Right, but so John claims they don't have a PR firm. So I've got 2 interviews here in which John's saying the same thing. The first interview is one of my favorites because this one is 18 years apart. And so for them to not have a PR firm, it's just a very interesting thing. Go ahead. Thank you.
We're told by John Douglas, who was the fellow that started the FBI profiling lab.
Also got to know a fellow by the name of John Douglas, who started the whole FBI profiling program.
A very brilliant man. He spent a lot of time looking at it, and his best assessment was that it was someone that was either angry at me or jealous of me.
And he said, this is not about your daughter, this is about you. Somebody was either angry, very angry at you, or very jealous of you. And this was done to hurt you. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because I can't imagine anyone being angry with me, or certainly that angry. And I was like, oh man, that's a hard pill to swallow, number one. And number two, I've never made anybody that mad that I know of. I can't imagine that.
We've been told that person was either very angry at me or was very jealous of me personally, and that's a heavy burden for me to carry.
But I respect his judgment, so
I think he's right, I'm afraid to say, but
We have no PR firm.
up until that point, until this happened in my life, my hope was based on probably shallower things. But it's a different kind of hope than I had. Frankly, my hope was probably pretty shallow before all this happened. A bigger house, a nicer job, a nicer car, those material things. But my hope was based on a better job and a bigger house and a nicer car and those things that we typically, look for and hope for. Well, when that's taken away, and certainly when your child is taken away, you're never going to get that back in your life. So how do you then have hope? And of course, all that probably isn't in the picture anymore. So what do you base hope on?
We have no PR firm.
That superficial stooge.
That was weird.
Those
said the
were
same thing.
Those clips were over decades.
Well, the last batch, you're talking about the Hope thing, that was on the same little book pressator. But that first batch, that's 18 years apart.
18 years apart. And yeah, he's saying the exact same thing
shit.
by rote, by like it's memorized, like it's something that was scripted for him by.
Same story.
PR firm.
Bingo! That's what I'm talking about.
Bang, 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 bang.
She's hit the pony on the head with the nail and the hammer,
Exactly.
like a PR firm.
PR firm. It's a hard pill to swallow. Boom, 18 years later, it's a hard pill to swallow. Like, same shit. Like,
It's a jagged little pill, and that's where we really have to think critically. And he may say that they have no PR firm, but how do you think you get these little press events anyway? And who do you think manages them? And why are you saying literally the same thing, and yet you're making it sound like it's coming to you contemporaneously, spontaneously?
He's good at that.
You're good at that. It's like acting. It's like being in a theater and you play the same scripts 8 times a week, and each time you make it sound authentic. For 18 years, this guy's been saying the same thing because it's what he wants to be said, and he wants to wind down the clock and not talk about other things. Mm-hmm. And as a result, like, it's not genuine.
It's just performative.
It's performative.
And Paula Woodward, whatever fucking name is, she had asked them in her interview with them in 2000 whether or not, that they refused interviews with like Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather and stuff, and they were saying, you're not going after hard-hitting enough journalists. Like, you sat down with like Katie Couric and Barbara Walters. And this was their response to that.
We specifically decided to go with Barbara Walters and Katie Couric because they are tops in their field and they're tough. And we didn't want to be criticized for not being challenged.
So is it because they're women?
Wow, that's a good point, Donna.
Well,
and you said that, not us.
So
it's
interesting.
Okay. So it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's okay. So yeah, it probably was because they're women.
It makes it more gentle. Like when it's a guy talking, saying it makes it almost sound like he is the jury or the judge.
I'm John Brokaw.
But if it's a woman, it's almost more of like a,
He's not as intimidated.
Mm-hmm. And
Barbara will be more sympathetic to a child. They know that like a female would be more
women. Women will probably watch too.
John knows that men are very detached because he's very detached.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's also about the type of women. They didn't have Diane Sawyer interview them,
right? And they're doing this no restrictions. So it's like, I'll do no restrictions. Katie Couric, Tom Brokaw. We're probably gonna pass, but if we did, we'd be severely restricted.
No Peter Jennings. Remember Peter Jennings?
We have our own camera guy and editor.
Very interesting.
So, they were very much in control of the narrative of things, as much as they tried to make it seem like.
Yeah, and I feel like I've heard somewhere where they had PR people. They had like 8 lawyers and 12 PR people, something.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be the first thing where we hear contradictions, clearly, because
obviously
there are times where we hear one story and then we hear another because for some reason they don't want to talk about the first story or something like that.
Exactly. They're always changing. So, yeah, I just thought that was really fucking interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And that was a really well done clip package.
Does not go in the John Good column.
It was like a movie.
And now we're gonna move on to we moved up a little bit in the timeline here, and Beth passes away in that car accident.
So Beth
starts to get religious. Yeah,
Beth was the big sister of John Andrew Ramsey.
Yes. Well, I think they were around the same age, honestly.
They're around the same age.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was John Andrew Ramsey's sister. Mm-hmm. And also a side note too, by the way, we were looking through his profile.
Yeah.
And on Reddit, because he's posted some stuff on there. Can you pull that up, Donna? That little image right there in the back. Yeah. Yeah, that one, perfect. All right, so this is a little Reddit exchange that John Andrew decided to create. What is that? What's that Reddit username? Jennifer Rami?
Jennifer Rami.
All right, so this is 3 years ago. Can you read that first post?
From what I've read, John was in a golf group with some buddies in Atlanta that nicknamed themselves the Fat Cats. So my thought it was someone who tired of hearing about his Fat Cat group and other aspects of John's life. Although it could just be a coincidence, it was in the note as well as being his Atlanta golf group name.
Oh. Right. So yeah, she's basically saying that she's read that John was supposedly in a golf group in Atlanta called the Fat Cat.
The Fat Cats.
Interesting.
And so then right after that post, John Andrew Ramsey jumps in and he goes, bullshit. He's got 3 upvotes on it, but
John Andrew Ramsey said bullshit.
So then Jennifer Rami goes on to say, what does she say there for us, Donna?
What part of my comment or post do you disagree with, or do you think I got it wrong? That John was in a golf group called Fat Cats. I thought I read that somewhere. I was supposed to be mistaken.
And then you know what? And then they go on and add an edit and they go, wait, no, this is the interview that shows that John was in a group called the Fat Cats.
It was an interview. It was like a newspaper clip or something from back when he lived in Atlanta.
It's a transcript of an interview with John where it's like he even talks about it. So it's a thing of though that John Andrew
an old interview.
It's they got this whole PR firm thing where they're manipulating all this stuff, and then even it boils down to even their own son. If John Andrew didn't even, know, he is not even that aware of his father.
It's that Ben Shapiro type of thing where he just he thinks he can just step on in and be like, bullshit. Like he's got, it's a fallacy of authority.
Well, because he doesn't want to believe it.
But he's not providing any supporting evidence for his claim or any evidence that, disproves the other thing. He doesn't respond.
And he doesn't respond to a comment. And she posted a source and she cited it.
For some reason, these people seem to think because this is about me, I am more honest, or I know more, or I am the truth than anything that you minds could come up with.
I think it speaks more to the Ramsey family dynamic. I don't think they're a family that talk very much.
Yeah, I think they're close.
I think it's a thing where, they blindly just believe whatever they're told, and the one time they discuss it and then never bring it up again. The whole theory where it's like, no, we didn't do this. So I think that's the whole thing of what it is with John. It shows how out of the loop John is. To want to go on a public forum like Reddit on your account where you said it to you, and then say a comment under there. You wouldn't do that without the confidence of somebody who firmly believed that when they said it. And I'm sure he didn't even read her comment or whatever, but I just found it very interesting.
He's like, my dad never told me about no Fat Cats thing, and blah, 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 blah. And it touches a sore spot, and because of that, he just says bullshit. When really, it's like, that could be the case of well, what if we know more because of the internet? Exactly. We're able to connect pieces, and we know more.
His dad never brought up the Fat Cats golf group.
For someone who's so driven by the truth, why are you so offended by it?
Mm-hmm. And so that is interesting. They did have a Fat Cats golf group, and that it was in the note. But Fat Cats was also a very common term for.
Is it Fat Cats?
I think so.
It's like yeah, Fat Cat. Fat Cat.
I think Fat Cat. I don't know, Donna, do you remember that term, Fat Cats?
No.
Fat
Is it Garfield?
That's why I'm thinking like Garfield. He ate lasagna.
Lasagna.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want lasagna.
I already gave you lasagna earlier.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was good.
And
lasagna.
soup now.
Yeah, I want them mixed together.
This Teddy's just running through my leftovers over here.
Well, I mean, that's why they're left over. They're for me.
That's not left Teddy. No, what is it? That's a good one. Teddy overs. We call them
Teddy overs, Teddy enders. We call them Teddy Eddy. Teddy Eddies. Like, oh, you know, it reminds me of my buddy Eddy. I'm supposed to give him some. So give me more soup later, but give me some from my buddy Eddy.
Yeti?
Eddy.
Oh, I thought you said from my Yeti.
No, not from my Yeti. No, that doesn't make no sense. No, this is from one of my friends under the bridge.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you soup.
He's one of my bookies.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your bookie is a homeless man who lives under a bridge?
Well, what do you think the cockfights are?
What do you barter with?
There's a lot of different things. Sometimes it's soap. Sometimes it's lasagna. Sometimes cockfights. Sometimes frog fights.
You have a chicken?
Well, no, I don't got chicken. No, I just bet on the chickens.
With what?
Well, it just depends on what I got and what they accept. You know, it's a very fluid kind of marketplace.
They take soup?
They take soap. They take lots of things.
They take beans? Because I think you got a stash you could probably get rid of.
How do you think I got all those beans? I won them.
That doesn't sound like a good thing.
Well, you know how much beans cost these days?
Declining rapidly.
Hey, the beans don't got nothing to do with anything. I don't care how red my vision gets. Those beans have been there for me like no one else. Can we talk about something else?
Yeah, let's go back to this. So now we're going to move up a little bit in the timeline. You know, John, his daughter's died, and now we're on the day of...
I'm sorry, Bobby. Donna, can you stop with that fucking clicking? You sound like a fucking robot
prepped.
Chicken over there.
She's just getting prepped.
Getting prepped.
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen is that if something's not ready, you're going to fucking yell at it like you just did. And she sounds like she's kind of damned if she does, damned if she doesn't.
No. Maybe if she just waited to click some other time, she would start trying to prep before or later. No. But now right then when I'm trying to listen to you, I'm hearing all these clicks in one ear. It's throwing me off. It's making me, because it almost sounds like the Manchurian Candidate code that I was given when I was in the woods.
Your name is Robert Crenshaw. What is it?
Up in
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
That movie is so good, honestly.
It was so good.
I hated it when I first saw it back when I was a kid, and then like when I saw it later, the Denzel one. That movie's actually fucking good. Meryl Streep, Liv Schreiber, Denzel,
Meryl Streep when she bled in her sheets and then she woke up and she sniffed them.
Liv Schreiber's like a little fucking. He's like a politician, but he's like literally like mind control.
Yeah, he was real good.
Oh, it's like Lieutenant Robert Shaw, and then it's like he stops in his tracks. There's like a scene in the movie where you find out his mom, Meryl Streep's, Liv Schreiber's mom, and she's like. He's like starting to walk out of the room and he's like, "Mother, I'm done with you." And she's like, "No, you're not." And he's like walking out of the room and she goes, "Lieutenant Robert Shaw." And you just see him like straighten up and like go like dead eyes. And she goes, "Lieutenant Robert Howard Shaw." And like that's his like code name to like
that triggers him, turns him into an assassin.
Denzel just plays
like
this
the magic
super soldier.
Denzel just plays this like sweaty fat guy that's trying to solve the mystery.
Chinese Dunkin' Donuts.
It was a Frank Sinatra movie. Angela Lansbury was in it. She played Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. Was she in the Manchurian Candidate?
Why isn't there Angela Lansbury like silverware or fine china?
What the fuck?
Like I would totally.
Why is there's nobody fine china?
Angela Lansbury, she was a storied American, celebrated. And
you think the highest honor that we can give her is putting her on fucking silverware?
I would have bought like little spoons. I would have bought
what? Like I would have bought like on it? What are you talking?
Little figurines, like precious mint. Yeah, I mean they have
like a teapot.
Angela Lansbury.
Maybe like a teapot. That's it. I'll give
maybe a teapot. Maybe a teapot. Maybe steaks. You know,
Angela Lansbury steaks.
Angela Lansbury steaks.
Is there like Salisbury steaks?
I mean, they've got a little bit of a seafood patina.
She can rebrand Salisbury steaks, make them cool again.
They're Salisbury steaks that have a glaze of ocean. So it's like a seafood meat product. You know what I mean? It's like if a cow drowned in salt water.
Like stuff and turf?
Yeah.
I went to Bob Evans with my buddy Tony.
It's put them together.
I went to Bob Evans with my buddy Tony, and he ordered a chopped steak. And no shit, this is 100% true. He was disappointed when he got it that it wasn't. He thought it was literally like a steak that they were gonna cut.
They were gonna chop up like little squares. That's hilarious. Oh my god, that's like something Donna would do.
Okay.
You guys have not. You haven't seen it. Well, actually, you have seen her eat now.
I mean, you saw how she ate soup. She ate like a buffalo.
That was you.
I didn't mean to say that like that.
I heard me eating.
No, you. Oh, yeah, I heard you.
Okay, what the fuck were we just talking about?
We were talking about Angela Lansbury.
No, before that, that's stuff that I was.
We were talking about Manchurian Candidate.
No, before that.
Before that, we were talking about.
The day of. Yeah,
the day of.
So, here's an interesting little tidbit that, and this is in a deposition from 2001, in which John's being questioned by an attorney of a reporter. We'll go into that a little bit in a second, but here's a snippet of him talking about Christmas morning and why it wasn't taped. We talked about this in the John Ramsey episode. Yeah. Go ahead and play that for us, Don.
JonBenét wanted me to take movies, but my battery was dead.
That's the only reasoning he gives in that in that interview. In the book, though, you know, he also does mention the battery's dead thing, but in the next sentence mentions that since his daughter's death of Beth, he's wanted to stay more in the moments and not film them. So he doesn't necessarily say if the battery thing is true, except for what there.
He didn't say it there. That's
but,
so. Yeah.
Again, we've also supposed that maybe this whole Christmas videotape's gone missing because John Andrew Ramsey's in it.
Maybe. And there's also a weird like moment in I think a deposition of Patsy's at some point where she like was shown the photo and a photo exhibit and she gasped. And it's like,
what do you mean?
There's like a moment when she was being interviewed. I read this on Reddit.
Yeah.
And
is it of Christmas morning?
I think it was a photo of Christmas morning.
That would make sense though, because I was just browsing through the book this morning to get ready for this episode, and in that thing he says, "Oh, my battery's not charged, but here you can use this to take some pictures." And I was like, "Oh, we always knew the last picture ever taken was the night before, so I guess there might be some unreleased Christmas pictures that the police have." That we don't have.
That maybe the grand jury saw.
I think that's the thing you've brought up before with Patsy's roll of film or whatever.
I think maybe.
But so that's interesting.
I'm the Patsy correspondent.
So she probably gasped at seeing the first time of seeing her daughter on Christmas morning.
Oh, possibly, you know.
But I would like to see the rest of the pictures because I wonder if it's like, you know, is there any sign that John Andrew Ramsey's possibly there? How many pictures are there?
If he's not there, then show the photos.
Well, I mean, the police have him, so if they thought he was there, they would say it. But it's just about the number of photos, and obviously it's not substantial that included him.
Maybe the police can take another look at the photos after they listen to our podcast, our investigation.
Right.
And ask themselves, do they see any photos of anybody in that house during Christmas?
Right. So in that same deposition, though, they go on to continue to question him. And this is an interesting part I found. This is him describing the activities from when they left the Fleet White's house. This is the night of Christmas. Yeah. When they left their house because they went there for a party in the evening. Yeah. And what happened? Go ahead.
We left. Patsy wanted to drop 2 gifts off at the Walkers and the Steins, which we did on the way home. We pulled in the driveway into the garage. JonBenét was asleep in the back of the car. I carried her upstairs and put her to bed.
Was that the last time you saw JonBenét alive?
Yes, it was.
Do you know if Patsy joined you in the bedroom when you put JonBenét to bed?
I don't recall that she was in the bedroom when I was in the bedroom.
Which kind of counteracts a lot of their other statements. Yeah. Where it's like Patsy, they get weird about that whole point in time of going up the stairs, like, oh, carried to bed. John was carrying her. I was maybe in front of him, or maybe I was behind him. But Patsy's recollection of it is that, you know, John carried her into the room and then set her down, and then she finished undressing her and stuff.
She changed her into some clothes that wasn't the clothes she wore before.
Right, and then you know,
and John, I think
a year
even said
removed
that.
from those interviews, John seems to say he can't remember if Patsy. He can't remember what the line is for this story.
Yeah,
he's very in any of these deposition interviews. John seems to be very angry. That he's even there, and it's kind of interesting because there's going to be another example of him kind of breaking the whole chain of the normal story that he tells. I found the deposition interviews very fascinating.
The Johnny Depp.
Yeah, but here's the next part of that line of questioning following the Whites party.
Do you have any memory of what she was doing after you left Fleet White's?
She was asleep.
How soon after you left Fleet White did she go to sleep?
I don't know. Sometime between the time she got in the car and when we arrived home.
Do you remember whether she woke up at any time between the time you saw her asleep in the car and the time you put her to bed?
She did not.
I don't know how long they were in the car, because if they were dropping off 2 presents, 2 houses, you know, there's different amounts of time that someone could be stopping at someone's house.
Right.
You know, moms, they love to chat.
Well, hey,
you know,
I want to go ahead and give a shout out then to another warrior in this whole crusade to get to the truth. There's a Cotton Star crime scene. They have a Instagram, which is how I first saw him, and then there's a YouTube. But he lives in Boulder.
Yeah.
And there's a video that he does where he actually shows the drive that they would have taken that night.
Really?
Yeah. I should have rewatched that to prep for this episode, but
How long is the
I'll
drive?
include a link to it. I don't think it was that long. But again, I'm not sure, because I'm going to have to rewatch it. I don't know if he factors in again. They've said that Patsy at the Steins went up to the door and was talking for about 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So whatever John was doing, just sitting in the fucking car, not paying attention to whether or not the kids are asleep or
Yeah.
whatever the fuck's going on.
And so they left the White's house. They drove home, but made 2 stops, and we don't know exactly how long that drive in total
It should
was.
take, I believe, around, if I remember correctly, it was something around 7 minutes.
Just to do the drive itself.
Yeah.
And you factor in 15 minutes, it's 20 minutes.
I mean, it's not.
And then there was another house they stopped at too.
It's not enough time for a little girl to fall asleep. But again, there's been conflicting reports from their own mouths about whether or not she was asleep in the car or not.
And what time they got home.
They've also said before that she helped carry presents up to one of those houses.
So she would have been awake, and then she would have to fall asleep after that. But then also,
it's easier to just say she was asleep.
But then also, Burke at one point said that he saw her carry presents up the stairs. That was when he was interviewed in 1997.
But then, how do you get a group of how do you get this culture of neighbors to not confirm these timelines or not do anything?
The Ramseys also demand the rest of their close friends remain silent.
The circle of friends were telling each other, do not talk to reporters or the police. That was the beginning of questioning what was going on with John and Patsy Ramsey. But I'm a kind of a person that when somebody tells me not to do something, I turn around and do it anyway.
As evidenced by being in this documentary. That was Judith Phillips. Who they said it was a neighbor friend.
She's spunky. That's a broad.
So that night, where they're taking people around, it's a thing where they could probably get people to hush up. They got money.
Up,
They got money.
What's that called when it's like line up or gather around or something? Like they all get together and they tighten up. They close the ranks.
Right.
And yeah, it's just an interesting thing because some of these details, they by their nature, they shouldn't be the hardest things to remember. But they become something that we think is hard to remember because the Ramseys for years have made it so that it looks and appears as if they're hard to remember because they're almost inconsequential when really it's a strategy often devised by public relations experts that people hire when they're spending millions of dollars on that kind of stuff where it's a way to deflect and make something seem both insignificant as a detail, but also something that we don't want to talk about because potentially it could be adverse in its effects.
Do you have any memory of what she was doing after you left Fleet White's?
She was asleep.
How soon after you left Fleet White did she go to sleep?
I don't know. Sometime between the time she got in the car and when we arrived home.
Do you remember whether she woke up at any time between the time you saw her asleep in the car and the time you put her to bed?
She did not.
So he's saying she definitely didn't wake up, and
under oath, he's saying that.
But also that means that the last time you saw your daughter alive was what? Before she got in the car? Because she obviously didn't fucking turn around.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was she asleep the entire time? And
I mean, she was alive, but I'm just saying the last time he saw her awake, I guess, because he says he carried her inside. But they've also said that she walked up the stairs, so was Burke.
And we also heard at one point, I believe, from John Ramsey himself that he was reading her a bedtime story.
Right. And then I think we have more of him describing what he does that night. Keep going there.
I went downstairs to get Burke in bed. He was putting together a little plastic toy that he'd gotten for Christmas. I helped him finish it so he could get off to bed. And we did that, and then I went to bed myself. I think I took my clothes off, brushed my teeth, put my pajamas on, and crawled into bed.
I also find it interesting, that choice of words there where he says he goes downstairs. Because the Ramsey's bedroom is on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
So that means he went downstairs, he was already... he went upstairs, put JonBenét to bed, apparently. Didn't pass ghost Passy or whatever. But then went upstairs, and then at some point was like, I'm going to go downstairs and get Burke ready for bed and help him finish his fucking toy.
Yeah.
The one that Burke maybe snuck down for, maybe not.
Yeah.
But so it was an interesting choice of words.
Yeah, it is interesting because it's also trying to put him geographically I don't know, somewhere,
and then also putting the kid to bed.
Yeah. And then brushing his teeth and all this stuff, and then he went to bed because Patsy Ramsey was still awake when John Ramsey went to bed, right?
Yeah, but she was already in bed. Also in that same interview, there's a thing where the guy is like, "Wait, did you take anything to help you fall asleep?" And then John's like, "Oh yeah, I took a melatonin." Which is like how he forgot what the fucking company line was. And the guy's like, okay, did you read maybe? He's like, oh, yeah, that's right, I read too.
Which were things that he said in other places that's what he did.
Yeah.
But during this deposition, under oath,
He's Johnny doesn't give a shit.
he wasn't peppering those details in, at least by choice. But then the other attorney, he was like, oh, but didn't you do this? Almost to put that on the
It's
record.
like he didn't brush up with his PR firm before he did this deposition.
Didn't brush up on it, or he didn't want to say it because he didn't want to lie under oath.
So now we've got John, and this is he puts everybody to bed supposedly, okay? And then John's side of the story is that he took the melatonin and shit, slept peacefully throughout the night.
Yeah.
First thing he knows is Patsy's screaming about the ransom note. He comes down and reads it on all fours without touching it.
Yeah, he didn't touch it.
Crouched over the.
It's like, okay,
weird.
Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, and they get the cops. They call the cops. Patsy's like, should we call? He's like, what do we do? And he's like, call the cops. So she's like, oh, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. And they call the cops.
And Burke heard him say that, call the cops.
Yeah, Burke is
From the
supposedly
second
heard
floor.
from his room on the other side of the fucking house.
Yeah, even though the kitchen and the curved staircase on the other end of the home, he was able to discern the words from his room.
Pro tip: if you're gonna do a murder, do not involve a 9-year-old.
No, unless
They
it's
can't
Macaulay
keep their
Culkin
fucking
himself.
mouth shut. Or their story's straight.
A
They
young
get all
Elijah
weird when
Wood,
you talk
maybe.
about touching them.
Yeah, no.
It's,
this kid is strange.
Yeah, very strange kid.
I'm not the only
But-
kid that's put my penis on a tree. That's for sure.
And it's oh yeah, you 100% probably are
Yeah.
the only kid that's fucked a tree.
Yeah. It was consensual.
A tree can't consent, but
A tree, it can
honestly,
grip back.
there's probably some fucking PETA group for trees.
It didn't run away.
People that fuck rocks and
Trees are
shit.
so easy.
Jesus Christ.
Give me in a tree and a bottle of Hypnotic.
Right. So, okay, we got this thing where now we got the cops there. Okay. John is asked, if he's gone into the basement prior to the time where, he discovers his daughter in the basement.
Prior to Linda Arndt asking you to look around the house, how many times did you go to the basement?
Once.
Do you remember at what time in the morning you went to the basement?
I do not.
All right. Do you remember what you saw in the basement when you went down there?
I saw a partially open window with broken glass and a suitcase beneath the window.
Did anyone ask you to go to the basement at that time?
No,
Do you know if anybody saw you go to the basement at that time?
I have no idea.
Did you inform anybody of what you found in the basement?
I don't recall specifically if I did or not. I have a vague recollection of telling Linda Arndt that I found an open window with broken glass, but that I perhaps had broken that glass myself months earlier.
During that event during the summer,
Yeah, he says that, during that time where he had to break into the house.
Yeah.
Which, again, John uses a garage opener. So it's a weird... The window for me is so fucking weird because it's like a thing for me. It seems like it was part of initial setup for the whole thing. And Teddy had previously been curious about whether or not John had gone to the basement before. Well, there's your answer.
There's the answer.
And he did it, in secret. But it's a thing, the glass was thrown in. But it's interesting because John still... Even though he broke in before, he's still like, oh, maybe it's, a part of the equation.
Yeah, maybe they still use this window and this suitcase that I know that's okay. It's my Van Damme,
right? Well,
and and he's looking for shards of glass, which would be like, okay, which way was the window broken? Why would some of that window be used?
And then some of the glass
inside or outside?
Some of the glass was found on that suitcase too.
On the suitcase.
So to me, it seemed like a staging attempt because again, they had a maid who says again, if there was a mess like that, they would have had me clean it up.
Oh yeah.
And again, John has no reason to go in through that window if he doesn't have his keys.
What could break a window like that, though?
Exactly. Well, you could do a baseball bat. Supposedly, maybe the baseball bat was done from the outside, and that's
the
why it was
baseball bat
thrown
that
out.
had the basement fibers, carpet fibers on it.
The baseball bat was on the outside, wasn't it?
It was thrown outside from the butler pantry window potentially because a neighbor heard the sound of clanging metal coming from that end of the house, and it was outside that window.
So we know that was around
almost
midnight. So we know for sure that whether or not that was the murder weapon or something used, in the crime,
as part of a cover-up.
it was
It's a cover-up
tossed out of a
weapon.
window.
Yeah.
And that butler door was left open. So that could be possibly somebody walking out of that door to go create this little outdoor thing. And whether it was done before the cops were there or when John was there, I feel like John still tried to suppose it as part of an evidence. Here's a clip from the 1998 Fox movie Getting Away with Murder that shows the incident in where John and Fleet, now John on his second trip down to the basement, goes and searches.
Hey, John. What Look at that. Oh, no, I broke that last summer. I locked myself out. John? Oh, my.
Oh, wow. Riveting. Pivoting. That was pivoting.
Yeah, that door opened easily, too.
Yeah.
And also, did you notice in that where, and we'll have the video clip, this Fleet screams at John before he goes into the wine cellar? Like this movie, this Fox movie, you know, the Santa Claus thing, they did a lot of like any suspect they threw at the wall to make it seem like
it was very convincing.
Fleet almost tries to warn John not to go in there where he knows supposedly JonBenét's body is.
John? Oh, my.
John. Yeah, like Fleet. Because even at some point, I think John Ramsey said that Fleet might be a suspect.
Yeah, right.
And they're not friends anymore.
But with the window there in that little scene, they go off the little info they have where it's like, oh, John informed Fleet about the window before. So, but here is John in that deposition describing him searching the basement with Fleet.
When Linda Arndt asked you to go down to the basement, I think that was sometime in the early afternoon.
I don't remember the time. I really don't. And then finally, the police asked me to look through the house thoroughly, and I found her in the basement about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sorry. Yeah, that clip, this is still part of the same clip. I just thought that was really interesting there where, in this deposition, again, I said John's kind of salty.
Yeah.
He kind of throws in there that he's like, I don't remember what time. But this is also 2001, which is like, you know, they've been doing a book tour.
You've been talking about it. You wrote a book about it.
We've been doing this for a little while, and it's engraved in my memory. I know they went to go look for the body around 1 o'clock.
And the book, can we talk about the book?
The book? Yeah, we're going to talk about the book here in a second.
Oh, good.
All right. So because the book's after the death. So we're still talking about the death. All right. So here's the actual full clip of John in that deposition talking about the
Johnny Depp
exploring the basement with Fleet.
Oh.
When Linda Arndt asked you to go down to the basement, I think that was sometime in the early afternoon.
I don't remember the time. I really don't.
When she asked you to go down to the basement, could you explain why you chose going to the basement since you'd already been there earlier?
She told me to go through the house and look for anything, go through the house thoroughly, as I recall, and look for anything that seems out of place. And so my intent was to do it thoroughly.
Did you ask Fleet White to join you?
I think I did, as I recall.
Do you remember exactly the sequence of events when you went down to the basement the second time?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me where you looked?
I went back into the train room, showed Fleet the broken window, explained to him that I might have broken it myself months ago. Showed him the suitcase that I saw under the window, which I felt was very out of place. We looked for any large pieces of broken glass, and then I got up and went to the cellar room, opened the door, and found JonBenét.
Look at all that. John's actual recollection of it sounds like he's kind of guiding Fleet through. We already know now that John told Fleet to come with him. It's like they called all these people over the house. It's like they wanted witnesses for everything.
They had people all around Patsy watching her.
And these aren't just anybody. These are people that they were with the night before. So it's witnesses to be like, oh, I saw JonBenét last night. She was fine. And then also a fucking pastor to be like, boom, we got to do the religion angle right off the bat. And these are people they called over right after calling 911.
John could
have
hung
up the phone, which you're not supposed to do. And then called their friends over.
They could have. John could have also easily just like gone in the basement himself.
He could have.
But
he already did. Remember once.
He did before.
Maybe he spruced up the scene a little bit.
When he first saw the window with broken glass, but he, as he said in depositions, like he told Fleet, oh yeah, that's the window I broke.
But he still go on where like, then we looked for broken glass because he says Mike. He added something of like, maybe that was me. I don't know if I did that.
Let's
where
look
it's
for
like,
broken glass.
Come on.
Okay, Annie Lennox, because there's something to be said almost of, to your point, if that was part of their original cover-up idea, and then at some point they almost were like, wait, that's not gonna work, whether they realize it later or realize it just prior to all those people coming over. So they knew that when the first person comes down here, I gotta set the record straight, as it was, and I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I broke that months ago.
And why wouldn't the police find that?
I didn't break that till last night because I was trying to cover up.
Why wouldn't the police find that weird the first pass through too?
Yeah.
Like if John found it weird, which we don't know again, he doesn't know the time, if it was before or after the police went down there. But it's a thing of like, if they didn't find it that weird enough. They did, they filmed the ledge and stuff like that, and that's how we know it was an undisturbed window well.
And it's kind of a small window.
You made a good point. For some reason, they abandoned that plan.
Yeah.
But they still tried to suppose it for some reason. And I think maybe they abandoned it when they maybe found out that the cops knew that the window well wasn't disturbed. Like, oh, we already cleared that. We already cleared that as a point of entry. And he's like, well, fuck. Or maybe all that's set up just to draw police attention to down there.
Maybe
to be like, hey, keep looking in other rooms. Like,
I'm almost getting the sense, Bobby, is that though the window well isn't quite the clue that solves how she was murdered or who she was murdered by, but the window well solves that there was a cover-up. And Lou Smith coming in later on under the DA who liked the Ramseys, and then getting hired by the Ramseys later on, promoting the first theory that was separate, took the focus off the Ramseys. They went through almost 6 months of being the only potential suspects, and then suddenly you get this ray of light shining down from heaven. It's coming out of Lou Smith's piss hole, and it's a new theory, the intruder theory, and they almost reverse that window. And rather it being almost like a way to break in or break out, or like, I don't know. Well, they find a way for, you know what I mean? For that almost to like not be about John klutzing around or Patsy with her stupid first fucking like impulse. Can you imagine her swinging a baseball bat in that basement alone? And also, really quickly, how long had that window been broken? If this was December and it happened in summer,
I think they said around like August-ish. Yeah, it was like midsummer.
Then why hasn't that been fixed? Why is that just an open window?
Even the housekeeper had said they would have gotten that taken care of if that was the case. And again, John did not have to fucking break in. And, they ended up having to expand that story to say he did it more than once. Once Burke added himself into the story. When they're like, hey, did you know your dad had to break in once? And Burke just, being the loyal little shit he is, goes, oh, yeah, I was there. And they're like, what? And then John had to be like, oh, yeah, I did it a couple times now. And Burke was there one time.
Because originally they said that Burke was in summer camp.
Yeah, well, the original time John did it, so they had to add
Burke, you can't stick to the fucking company line.
Because you lost your fucking key and your garage opener.
And also, this is the room where your son plays with all the time. You're not going to have broken glass on that room. No. You're not going to have a shattered window.
That's a very fucking good point.
You're not going to have that be not fixed to the point where there's still broken glass that's on top of the suitcase full of cum towel.
Yeah.
And so it must have happened that night.
That's true.
It must have.
That's very true. That's a very
They're
good
going down that
point.
basement all the time. Patsy's putting the presents down there.
Right.
That's a very good fucking point.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I know, because I got the amazing unparalleled abilities of analysis. I am the most analyst of all analysts ever in the world. And it's something that, should be honestly respected and revered. And Donna should be doing things like give me warm towels. Give me toast when I want toast.
Why do you want a warm towel?
Because sometimes I need warm things on my hands. It promotes my blood circulation, Donna.
Oh, okay. You're talking about cum, so I'm just making sure. Like,
cum don't help with my blood circulation.
Right.
You're supposing things. It's the suppositions, like Bobby taught me that word.
So,
that word.
Then, we got the Ramseys. They skated, the investigation the first day by not talking to the cops. And then there was the whole media thing where they're saying like, oh, they're not talking to the cops, and they keep saying, no, we did. And so here was John in regards to that.
Well, we did. First of all, we met with the police on the 26th. We met with them on the 27th. We gave fingerprint, handprint, blood samples, hair samples on the 28th, I think it was.
Got it.
And, but what he's referring to is we met with him on the 26th is the police were at your house for this.
We met them.
That's not meeting.
We shook their hands.
That's not meeting. You avoided even getting questioned by them.
Yeah.
The 27th, they were over at their friend's house. That's where Linda Arndt and another detective went over to question them.
Oh.
Patsy was absent. She's in another room because she was all volumed up by the JonBenét's pediatrician who was there, as well as 2 lawyers.
What?
And yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, and so they were setting terms right then and there on the 27th. And then the 28th was a mandated that no matter what, by that day they had to turn over samples. And it was like John and Burke went and took in fucking hair samples of everybody.
Wow.
So again, they still didn't talk to Patsy. But for them to be like, we did talk to them.
Yeah.
And then, so
Make it sound like, it was cordial and we were cooperative.
Right.
And then really it's like you guys were like, it was like pulling teeth.
Right. And then so in 1997, we know that they talked to him in like late April, early May, of the Ramseys. And then later on that year, they get a new chief. And that's Mark Bruckner, who we've referenced his previously deleted AMA. And here's him on freshly after becoming chief.
It's been approximately 6 months since we last interviewed the Ramseys. During that time, there's been a lot of investigation. We've uncovered a lot of new information. We have a lot of new questions, and they can help us answer those questions. They have indicated every willingness to cooperate and have done so during my 9 weeks anyways, and so I expect that we'll get that done in the near future.
But it won't happen. It will be 3 years before the Ramseys and police talk again. They will do 2 subsequent interviews with the DA. Their only stipulation, to which the DA agrees, is that the police are not involved.
Wild. Their only stipulation, and the DA agrees, that the police are not involved.
Yeah.
Why are they deciding that?
Because it's like, hey, we got a Lou Smith right here. He's a retired detective. Let him just interview us.
The guy who looks at things on the day of, who was brought in months later.
Who's already like, he thinks they didn't do it. So no matter what.
Wow.
Eventually is on their payroll for decades.
Right. And so the police would,
somebody's payroll.
And again, it's they did very kind of narrowly focus on the Ramseys, but again, I would too in the way of like, you guys are the most likely suspects here, and you're still not granting his interview, so it's like.
And that press conference, which was on December 5th of 1997, I think it was.
Right.
It was very like diplomatic and going. They are very cooperative. I'm a new guy. They don't know.
Yeah.
I've been here for 9 weeks. They've been cooperative with me so far, so I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
But then it was 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
Wow.
4 years.
4 years.
3 years. It was 3 years.
3 years.
And again, in that time,
3 years.
In that time, then they would go on to write. They would go on to write a book about JonBenét called "The Death of Innocence," which, to me, like Eddy, the most fucked up thing about this book is that the book is called "The Death of Innocence." You think you got a dead daughter. That's what it's about. No. This book is about the death of their presumed innocence.
Crazy.
It's not about. It has nothing to do with JonBenét.
They're presumed
She's not even
innocence.
on the fucking cover.
Wow.
We got the paperback here. She's not on the back, but she is on the back of the.
It's a heavy book. It's got red lining. It's got a Patsy and John. They've got their heads are floating in a black background, like they're wearing black clothes.
They're looking very seductive. It looks like, wasn't there like a Kenny G video that looks like that?
It does look like a Kenny G video.
All black. An all black background.
Like a Harlequin.
They could. It's almost like they could have been either in a Eurythmics music video or a Shania Twain music video. The death of innocence. JonBenét's parents tell their story. It's the death of their innocence,
right?
Not the death of their innocent daughter.
Go ahead and play that for me.
We believe that America has lost the concept of presumption of innocence. We've been tasked with proving that we're innocent, and that shouldn't be.
And so that's like, he thinks that's their whole clinch point. Again, not about their daughter, about the death of their presumed innocence, which is the same thing with the pastor at the beginning, where John's like, even if we were murderers, you still got to accept us kind of thing. We're like, what's going on? What happened, guys? We got to.
It's so interesting how everything eventually, whether it started out about someone else or something else or whatever, or if it started out, a little closer. But everything in the end ends up being about John or Patsy Ramsey. They make it about themselves.
Yep.
Right.
In the end, it's almost like a black hole. Like in the end, that's what the pineapple is about. Anything becomes eventually an indictment or a judgment about them as people, as parents, or as sinners.
Right.
And
you know what an alternate book title for that was, though?
What was that?
So they were asked the question on that Christian bullshit, that Hawaiian stuff, where they were saying, hey, the media portrayed you guys, they put out a lot of stuff that wasn't right out there in there. What was one of the ones that really bothered you?
Probably the first one, in fact, we wanted to make that the title of our book, was No Footprints in the Snow.
No footprints in the snow.
What?
Yeah, wait,
And
that?
it was because
Just musing over another time.
Right. Well, it was because the police had put out a statement, the media too, like, early on when the Ramseys were being uncooperative, that, hey, there's no intruder because there was no footprints in the snow. But based on their earlier crime scene footage, or, pictures and shit, there was no snow anyways. So it's kind of misleading.
So the book, they wouldn't make the book almost like a joke, the title a joke. Like, no footprints in the snow, like these cops were idiots or wrong.
Well, I mean, again, it's also...
They were trying to say no footprints in the snow is the reason why we're
talking break of dawn, too. So we don't know if it's, some cop walked around and actually checked the perimeter right off the bat.
That's a good
on
point.
The outside.
I mean, it was Christmas time. It was early in the morning. It could have been dark out, But the thing of it is that this book, The Death of Innocence, one, it adds their faces, like almost like when you're used to seeing JonBenét's face all the time. But then it's told from both of their point of views, like they alternate. Where then it makes me think, as an investigator of serious professionalism, of like, if I was telling the definitive story of like what happened. Oh, look, SBTC right there. Southern Bell Telephone Company.
Yep.
I think so. I got a feeling. But anyway, I would make strategic choices of who tells what part of the story. Well, when it's their first person, you know what I mean? And it's very telling, like what they do end up using.
And then and also in this presentation of this book, which came out in 2000, you even saw in that they presented the whole grand jury thing as like basically like it was so relieving because they basically said, hey, we didn't. It's so great that now a grand jury has decided that we, cleared us.
Should.
But they didn't, which we didn't find out for fucking 8 years after that book, and that they didn't actually clear you.
So this is from the book. This is from page 374. Okay, it's like the whole climax of the entire book is like them like trying to hear the answer, and they say, let's see, Hunter walked to a microphone. That's Alex Hunter, the DA, and made a terse statement. The Boulder County grand jury has completed its work and will not return. He said, no charges have been filed. As we heard Hunter's words, we squeezed each other's hands. I must report to you that I and my prosecutorial team believe we do not have sufficient evidence to warrant the filing of charges against anyone who's been investigated at this time, Hunter concluded. I remember that clip, Bobby. Yeah. And then John says, I couldn't believe my ears. The Nevada justice system had creaked and shuddered, but it had worked. We had not been indicted. Patsy hugged me and we stood there in relief, staring at the television screen. People would have to finally see the jury's decision as our vindication. I was so choked up, I was about ready to cry. We got into jail. So, like, finally see the jury's decision. It was not the jury's decision.
It wasn't.
It was the DA's decision.
But they thought this shit would stay sealed.
And they lied at the crux of the plot point to make the point of it be what they wanted it to be in their little fake fucking story, the little PR, little bullshit, Candyland, of hate, whatever. But also, like, I found it towards the beginning when they're talking about the time they took JonBenét upstairs and put her in bed. He writes, JonBenét had fallen fast asleep in the back seat. I got her out of the car and carried her upstairs to her room, laid her on the bed, and took off her coat and shoes. I was amazed at how sound asleep she was. It had been a long day for her. Patsy came in to finish getting JonBenét ready for bed. Boom. And then he says the whole downstairs. He went downstairs to get Burke to come up to bed and all that shit. But basically, Patsy was in the room. But yeah, in that deposition, he's like, I don't know if I'm in the room.
Right. And then, during his interviews with like Lou Smith, he was asked various different things. Here's one about him. This one's at the bottom there. It's like the third one up. You see it? Patsy, yeah, play that.
There's been a lot of speculation by a lot of people that maybe you didn't know anything about the murder, but maybe Patsy did. It's preposterous. I mean, Patsy loves both her children dearly, but frankly, she and JonBenét were extremely close.
Love how open and free he can be with Lou Smith.
Two guys shooting the shit, eating peanuts, drinking beer.
And then here's him in that same interrogation when he's asked about the pineapple stuff.
What have you heard about pineapple?
Well, we were asked, did JonBenét eat pineapple? And because apparently it was found in her system. I think part of the question was, what did she eat it when she got home? I'm sure she didn't because she was absolutely sound asleep.
She was sound asleep.
Right. And they didn't garner much from these interviews, but there is one part of it that I found interesting where he does, this is where they actually have it, where he implicates Priscilla White in possibly being
Fleet White's wife.
Fleet White's wife. Here we go. Go ahead and roll that.
If I narrow that box down even further to
I would pick Priscilla. There's a lot of data that kept flowing in afterwards to us from friends that said, Priscilla was very jealous of Patsy.
However, police cleared both Priscilla and Fleet White of suspicion early in the investigation.
That is very telling of who John Ramsey really is.
Right.
Trying to throw Priscilla, Fleet
under the bus
White under the bus.
Well, for his police interview, you got to kill sometime. You're finally doing it. So it's like, hey, let me see what I can give you.
And it was also Priscilla's sister who was the one that gave consent for Burke to be interrogated by the interviewed by the cops
unsung hero
on the day of the
She pretended to be Burke's grandmother and gave the police permission.
It's kind of like the Church of Scientology or any sort of Mormon where they wanted to punish if you step out of line, you're going to be
mad. Yeah,
we're going to go after you. We're going to sick the.
And then also Fleet kept telling John, to come back and talk to the police. And John's lawyers absolutely fucking hated Fleet. They did not like all of the advice that he was giving John, which was normal, rational human advice. Like, hey, if you guys got nothing to hide, he was there when he found the body. Or were you just being used as a pawn to be like a witness? But then he wasn't. He wasn't one of the neighbors that fell in line.
He wasn't, and they never got back on friendly terms ever again.
They did not. Okay, so we've got this thing, where they use the grand jury to their advantage. We've seen how he uses the media. Where it's like they just repeat the same story.
Oh, I see it. And I think people listening to the show can see it too.
Right.
That's the thing about investigations, about things like this. It's important because it serves a public service.
Right. And then so we move on to 2008. This is 2 years after Patsy's died.
Okay.
And there's the Mary Lacey, who is now the district attorney of Colorado, is continuing the tradition of being just a shit district attorney. And basically, she says based on new DNA evidence they got, that she's saying it clears the Ramseys as suspects, and she sends them this public letter apologizing.
Oh yeah, that big long letter,
which is fucking stupid. And the Ramseys again use that. That was their new thing to latch onto. Like the grand jury cleared us post. This is also like the same fucking year that the grand jury. We find out the grand jury.
Same fucking year.
Yeah.
Same year.
So then now they're like, oh, now we got the district attorney going, hey, we're sorry. You're actually not suspects at all, guys. So don't worry about this whole grand jury thing.
And she's the boss, and she has the the only person who would be able to do that. It's actually really it's unprofessional.
It is. And here's a detective, a former detective, on that very issue.
My name is Gordon Coombs, and I am a former investigator with the Boulder District Attorney's Office. When you're investigating a case, you don't try and fit the evidence into what your theory is. That's when mistakes happen. Mary Lacey's relationship with John Ramsey was unusual. I have never been in a position where one of the suspects in the case is brought into the office for informal conversations. It was not something that I had ever seen, and I would deem it as being pretty inappropriate. It was made known that Mary believes the intruder theory, and the overall feeling was you either believed in the intruder theory, and if you didn't, you were at risk of being forced out. You either keep your mouth shut about this case, or you fall in line.
Does that sound familiar?
I mean,
a tradition of this shit going on where
that sounds like a mob boss. That sounds like where you just
well, and they've shown before that it's like, hey, yeah, you can do all the detective fucking work you want, but we're not going to go after somebody if we don't like what you're giving us. Where it's like, who's the real fucking detectives here? Like it's insane. The American judicial system is just absolutely a goddamn.
It's absurd. I mean, John Ramsey is going into the DA's office. The DA writing little letters saying, "I love you guys so much. It tastes so good. I love how salty it tastes.
Stop and bring you some canes.
Money, bring you canes, some cane sauce. Is that the air conditioning or my nipples hard in response to you?
Patsy's dead, right?
Patsy's dead.
Mary Lacey.
I put maple syrup in my pussy.
Is that a wig?
Yeah, it's a merkin.
I'm fine with it now if it is a wig.
Yeah. What's your favorite place to get naked at Kmart?
So not saying that John.
Don't look at me that way, Don.
But not saying John didn't try to fuck Mary Lacey. He's always visiting her in her office, and then she's got this letter to him. Very inappropriate relationship. Which again, the now DA of Colorado has. It seems like we're going in a good direction because they've also said that it was inappropriate that she did that.
Oh, good.
They said she should have never done that. It's still an open investigation.
Yeah.
So it is. And so, you know.
And it's like, oh, but and also it takes two to tango. And John was the one going into the room. And if John's such an upstanding citizen, why is he doing something that is so cavalierly, if not illegal, improper?
Because it's less expensive than fucking hiring just Lane's lawyers or Lynn Wood to go.
Oh, yeah, you know,
like, you know what? How about I just try to do this one? It's just like the deposition where he's like, I don't need a PR firm. Maybe I'll just wing it. You kind of fuck it up a little bit.
You know, or like, oh, I'm just going to do this because I want to do this anyway. But like also.
You get cocky. You get a little cocky.
Yeah.
You've gotten away with murder. Or, I'm sorry.
Moral high ground.
If you did it. You got away with covering up something and you already know his mindset again from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to accept, what if I didn't do it? Like
it's
a whole
weird game.
They're very much like a psychological people. John's even said he's got an engineer mind where you have to prove something.
Yeah.
And he knows he's very careful. So it's a whole fucking, it's a very well-oiled machine that John fucking runs here.
It's a Schrodinger cat. Every time.
And again,
you have to hold two ideas. Are they guilty? Are they innocent? And they play with that.
Yeah. But again, the cop just said, you know, basically you got to toe the line or, you know, you're gone. Yeah. And it sounded very familiar because here's Alex Hunter back in the fucking day, back in 98 or 97-ish, about Steve Thomas.
Alex Hunter, the district attorney who calls Thomas a tormented soul, urged caution with regard to Thomas's conclusions.
He didn't have the background and the sort of the depth of understanding that several of the other detectives did. I don't think detectives ought to be writing books.
Yeah, and that's... You know.
I guess not.
But that statement too, where he's just saying the depth of knowledge or understanding as the other detectives tells me it's saying like you don't know to toe the fucking line.
You're not saying the company line.
It's like that's the thing. It's like Steve just went against it, and he was the lead detective on the case, and you got to let him fucking do that.
Well, but apparently not on this case because that there is a line that's he's already not towing with, and it's weird because it's like you also saw with the Ramsey's neighbors where if they didn't toe the line, they were gonna be targeted.
They didn't even say anything. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what happened with Lynn Wood, but
it was like
not that stupid.
We see these social pressures on all these different spheres where it's public pressure to not question or to not counter some sort of main story, and I feel like that extends to this case to this day of even just some of any animus or anathema or any sort of perplexity or misunderstandings of like what we're doing,
right?
Where it's like how when's the last time you've seen anybody spend 10 hours of their time talking about this little girl and not just talking about themselves?
I really just want to point out just like the duality of this whole thing where we got back in the day, it was the same fucking thing where the DA is on their side. They got him in their pocket. These people are like, I don't want people to think that they're not powerful. He tries to say they don't have a PR firm, but look, you've got your hand in the DA's pocket. Their lawyer was very good friends with the assistant DA back in the day, and we got them going out for them. Cut to fucking years later, new evidence comes out as well as the same time that it's revealed that the grand jury chose to indict you. You get the new DA who you keep visiting to then fucking write a letter saying, hey, you guys are cleared as suspects.
You guys
in an
are
open investigation.
Super innocent. Yeah.
It's insane because it's just another PR round. It's just like, how do we make them look good?
You don't need to have your own PR people when you have the state of Colorado's fucking attorney general's PR people.
Right.
Right.
Like Lynn Wood's got PR people. He's got his own people he can do.
They got people. I mean, it's just like Lynn Wood knew Donald Trump. Donald Trump knew David Pecker. David Pecker led AMI or whatever it was that ran National Enquirer in New York. Yeah.
Wait, so like, how do you know this? Well, okay.
Oh, because I mean, I follow that news. I know that much.
Keep going.
I know that much.
Lynn Wood knew David Pecker?
And so like, there's a lot of people where they could like just make a phone call. David Pecker was part of an arrangement or maybe even a settlement or even some sort of like pay to play sort of thing where they had
G. Wentworth.
And they were able to get stories out there or to have like things be on the cover page.
The Enquirer.
The Enquirer of like like
that
Page 6 does that.
That makes sense because the Ramseys like they hated the Globe. But there's also I've seen stuff where the Ramseys investigator actually talked to the Enquirer for stories.
See,
and they gave the police shit for also talking to the tabloids too.
The police and the DA are granting hundreds of media interviews to just about any reporters who ask.
But
it's one of those things
they both were doing it.
They did it.
Everybody was using them.
Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those things where it's very curious. Well, first they kind of take like a highty-mighty, whatever. Like, you know, oh God, we're Christians, like, you know, and rich people's sort of perspective of like, oh, we denounce people doing that, but they do it too.
Well, they try to say at this point they're trying to paint themselves as you know people that are Christians, but also they've lost everything, which isn't fucking true. They have these foundations and shit that they started that they tried to funnel money through that they thought were going to be working out for lawsuits.
Oh, really?
But they ended up finding out that Burke's lawsuits were the more profitable one.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for having me on. Mr. Ramsey, you talk about giving back to the community. In your book of Death of Innocence, you talk extensively about the JonBenét Ramsey Foundation. That foundation was closed. It virtually did nothing. Yet in your book, it still says the proceeds from the book sales are going to the JonBenét Ramsey Foundation. I'm wondering if you can explain that. And also, could you please tell everybody that in the civil case, the judge was only presented with what Linwood, your civil attorney, showed her, and without benefit of the actual police files. I'll hang up and listen. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm sorry I didn't hear the second part of that question, but regarding the foundation we set up for JonBenét in her honor, frankly, we had hoped that we could recover substantial damages from a lot of the very slanderous and wrong stories that were put out there about us. We did recover some things, but most of those were on behalf of our son Burke.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So they're not broke.
They're not fucking broke. They're able to hide their assets. There's no way he still doesn't have like stocks in fucking Access Graphics or whatever the fucking Lockheed Martin company. But so John, he very much embraces faith as a good, angle, or, actually a man who's a man of God now. And, he's near the end of his life, well, he's still fucking alive, I'm sorry, but, near the end, he very much is going for this persona, and here's him comparing himself to Job.
Donna.
Okay.
You need to focus.
Okay.
She's been doing so
She needs
good.
to focus.
There's been a lot of clips, and she's actually been doing good.
She's in fucking La La Land.
All right.
And it's like, all right, Ryan Gillespie.
Listen.
There's a wonderful discovery, for me anyway, that I found in Job. And if you remember at the beginning of the story, Job is said to have, and I forget the exact numbers, but 3,000 cattle and 2,000 sheep and 7 sons and 3 daughters. And then, of course, at the very end of the story, God restores Job's wealth and possessions and family twofold. And it relates that now he had 6,000 cattle and 4,000 sheep and so forth, so on, 7 sons and 3 daughters, and then the story ends. And if you notice that, the question I asked was, well, why didn't God give him 14 sons and 6 daughters, which would have been twice as many as he had in the beginning? And I think the answer would have been that, Job, you have 14 sons and 6 daughters, 7 and 3 are with me. And it was the most wonderful thing that I discovered in the Bible, I think, for me, having lost 2 children, to see that consistency in Job, which is one of the oldest books of the Bible, written before Jesus came along and told us that of eternal life.
Fucking 14 daughters and 7. Isn't that like a fucking old riddle? Like 14 daughters and 7 something. Like end of town.
He's going
how many fucking daughters?
73 kilometers in this direction. And he's got, this many like cherry limeades from Sonic Drive-In.
So yeah,
in this
John,
direction.
you got 2 dead daughters and 2 dead wives.
It's like, John, give it a break. How
many apples do you have?
Yeah, it's like, this whole like campaign to portray yourself as a martyr.
Right. Well, as Job.
As Job.
Job from Mission Impossible.
Job is a big deal in the Bible. And it's like, is that the true story and metaphor to glean? Because do we even know what the actual events are? Instead,
of the Bible? Is that what you're saying?
No, of John Ramsey's life. Instead, he's telling us what
I don't think he was really picturing JonBenét in that story. Only in the way of like, I lost sheep or whatever.
Well, I lost that sheep,
Yeah, that kind of shit.
But it's like, okay,
again,
you lost that sheep.
focusing on themselves. This is about them. How it affected them.
Yeah, he is. And it's honestly, but it's also something where he's putting himself like, JonBenét's death tells his story, not that he has things to answer about her story. You know what I mean?
Right.
and you're like putting it on him, and it's so biblical. That's why it is this murder is done.
Well, he's a man of God now, and that's why it's like, so he starts releasing his book.
He writes about it all in his new book. It's called The Other Side of Suffering. I told you in the break that I read your book over the weekend, and it was so touching.
Oh, Robin.
So this is post Patsy being dead. The Burke wells run dry. We got to get another book out there.
The Other Side of Suffering.
Thank you, because I keep forgetting. I immediately forget that title the second after I hear it.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, no, Death of Innocence is good and memorable because it's like, it's about, it's not really about your dead daughter. It's about your innocence. So The Other Side of Suffering is...
It sounds like a sigh. It sounds
Not who killed their daughter.
Supposedly
There's
it's
no concern at all about who killed their daughter.
Oh, well, I mean, there's a loose,
exactly
there's a
that.
loose concern.
It's us about them.
Which we got that'll be coming up. But it's a thing where now we've got a very religious John. And so this book's really about him embracing his religion. And that's where he milks the whole, Beth thing. And then, Patsy. I would love to get a copy of the book to see if he even mentions the fact that his previous wife also died.
Yeah.
So John Andrews' mom, so
she
maybe
died.
a little raw about that.
That's a lot of death.
She's dead.
Even in the fucking pictures they were showing of Beth on that one show, which if you watch the video, you'll see it. There's no of her actual mom. They kind of portray it like it's almost like Patsy's her mom.
Oh yeah, they never bring up her actual mother.
Yeah, it's like, oh, John, from your previous marriage where that ended in infidelity.
Right. The marriage where you were fucking some other lady,
and then she died of cancer as well. So.
Yeah,
crazy.
A lot of strange things.
Does John just have Does he just have that on deck? Like he knows what?
He poisons people.
Well, it's something that he said.
Negativity.
There's something to be said. I mean, maybe that's his trophy. Maybe he's doomed to doom people.
Well, he's known as the Iceman, and again, John has very much always been portrayed as, in all accounts, that whenever he was home, because he was away on business a lot, and again, this is a man who has affairs apparently. He was away on business a lot. That whenever he was home, Patsy's job was to quote keep the kids away from John.
Oh my God!
So it's like a thing where he's not a very hands-on father.
He was not.
He doesn't even know that.
He wasn't really spending time with his kids.
But that's also like at the time a period, the best kind of father in the way of like that you're still going to be getting these kids seeking your approval. Little 2-year-olds coming up your leg, Burke trying to learn.
Well, you probably have a wife seeking your approval too.
Yeah. So exactly, Patsy, getting over ovarian cancer and getting it back kind of shit. So it's a thing where
knowing
he was
about
not,
some contortionist.
It needs to be known he was not a hands-on father at all. And I don't think that ever really fucking changed. But now he's a man of faith. He's written this book. And he starts going on a thing, and then he gets a new wife too.
A new wife.
John, with his new wife Jan, lives quietly in Michigan.
Yeah, this room will be the master bedroom.
Rebuilding is a constant theme.
Yeah,
home improvement.
Yeah, and then here's them on one of the weirdest fucking just appearances I've seen on. This is on an Anderson Cooper talk show. I don't know when this happened.
Cooper.
Or like when he had a talk show.
I love Anderson Cooper.
I fucking love him too.
Pat Oswalt.
Remember when you said that on New Year's Eve where he's like, was he with Anderson Cooper?
Oh yeah.
No, but apparently way later.
Down the line. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
So everybody just get ready for the weirdest fucking exchange. Definitely watch the video of this.
We met at a wedding in Denver a couple years ago.
And you must be so proud of John for his strength.
He's the finest human being I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I really like him.
John, your face lights up when you see her. It's nice.
Well, I asked her to say that, so glad she got it right.
Glad she got it right.
Yeah.
Jesus, John.
I don't know. Anderson has no idea what to do there.
Damn.
It's like, damn, go ahead and spank her in front of all of us. Little horn dog.
But also, it's like, so what is her personality? Because it's not gleamed really at all.
No.
It's like,
he's the finest man I've ever met in my life.
It's like,
okay,
like
did you ever have a father?
She's joking, but she's not joking, kind of thing. Where it's
yeah. No.
He's the finest man I ever knew in my life. It's just absolutely.
Really
have you not seen Mr. Clean?
Mr. Clean?
He's a fine man.
Oh, I see what you...
Mr. Brawnies.
I understand.
The guy with the mustache and the guy without the mustache. Those were like, and that,
Oh, the lumberjack.
Lumberjack.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember Apple Jacks?
I fucking love those.
I love Apple Jacks.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. I did like Apple Jacks, but I love the apple. It's like apple cinnamon Cheerios.
Apple cinnamon Cheerios. Oh,
Cheerios.
that sounds good, especially like if I was like Muslim. Like, I
Is
feel
that a kosher thing?
Really?
it's one of those things. I'm out of my element.
There's no fucking way that's true.
It'd be really. I think it's really good. I think it's called manna.
No, that's money.
Oh,
Manna from heaven.
manna from heaven.
Yeah, it's money.
Anyway, let's talk about something else.
Anywho, that's
Well, yeah, I love cereals. I love Rice Krispies. I love Fruity Pebbles. And that's the thing is that JonBenét, she will never get to enjoy the flavors, the fruity flavors of Fruity Pebbles.
I mean, they haven't really done that much with cereals since then, but
Was
she
JonBenét
seemed to be
in
more pineapples and cream.
Was JonBenét in all that on Nickelodeon?
No, we've done this before. She was not
Was she a
famous.
Mouseketeer?
She was a Mouseketeer.
No.
I swear, I saw her.
God
in the
damn it, Donna, do not. What did we?
Donna, look it up.
Stop, no, she wasn't because she wasn't. Don't look it up. We've done this before. You were confusing her with Christina Aguilera. That was not correct.
But Donna, maybe it's a Kathleen Madigan effect where there are multiple dimensions.
Yeah,
and we have
I'm
seen
sorry.
her.
You're right. My bad, Donna. Can you pull up Google and then pull up the one that's in the alternate dimension? Why are you actually doing it?
No. Look at
in Crazy Land.
Donna, listen to me.
You need to stop. I feel like it's like a
I'm
period
supposed to
thing.
Google.
I feel like it's a period thing, but like you being close to Teddy is making you dumb, and so
why? Because why? What are you trying to say? That I'm dumb?
No, my bad.
Wow.
Anywho,
You know, there's two of us, and so that means we're more right. And
I'm sorry. You're right. Donna,
need a
I'm sorry,
total
you on the
line.
side of somebody who thinks that if we check to the alternate dimension, that we might find the answer that he's saying.
I think so.
I'm sorry. You got somewhere to be? You're looking at your fucking phone.
No.
We're almost done.
Well, let's fucking finish.
All right. So John is on this, religious journey. He's got this new wife.
Yeah.
Got the book out.
Yeah, but-
they went to Michigan. I believe now he's in like Arizona and shit. But so in that same Anderson Cooper show, here's a little intimate look, and he's talking about basically dealing with would he want to know who the perpetrator is?
I had a friend of mine tell me several years ago, I said, we've been praying that God would reveal the killer for so long, and I wonder why he hasn't done that. And my friend said, well, maybe he knows you're not ready to know that yet.
And do you still think you're not ready?
No, I'm ready now.
He's ready now. He's ready now.
He's ready now.
And that's why we are here now, because we are gonna rip the lid off the label and spill the tomato out, all the guts, all the juices, all the innards of the meat and potatoes of the Don Simpson roast of the greatest American murder mystery since mysteries was invented in Americas.
Right.
And it couldn't happen before because John Ramsey, the father of JonBenét Ramsey, was not ready to learn who the killer was.
He wasn't before, but now he is.
Now he is.
Now he is.
And to us, Nick Lachey.
And I think that has a lot to do with this last clip here in regards to his forgiveness.
Forgiveness is really a gift you give yourself. You've got to release that desire, that anger, and move on. And it doesn't matter if the person you're forgiving wants to be forgiven or not, or even ask for forgiveness, but you've got to move on. And that concept of forgiveness is a way to move on.
So maybe he's found some sort of inner peace and saying like he's fine with knowing it now because he's moved on and he doesn't care anymore. Or it's a thing of like he's forgiven himself for the murder, if you want to say he did it.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said about that perspective on forgiveness, because it was something where
it was out of their control.
Yeah, well now we've really like wrapping it up though. Like, so what do you think? Because my thoughts personally on it are that I don't think John actually killed his daughter. I do think though with 100% certainty that he had something to do with the cover-up.
I kind of think he definitely has something to do with the cover-up. And I definitely think that maybe there was a cover-up before the cover-up he was covering up. And there's something about his set of skills, in these interviews and the consistencies and things like that where, we can see that it's like it's pretty much scripted and it's consistent for decades, and it's told with a certain emotion. So
and it changes,
and it's always about him. That it feels very self-centered, feels very narcissistic, And we also know now that he was having affairs with during both of his marriages.
He was an absent father.
And he wasn't really around his kids. And that's a very different story than he'll ever portray, or perhaps he maybe was ever allowed to portray either.
I mean, yeah. Her thing, it worked out well, the deal, because just unspoken deal, I'm sure, but it was a thing where she always wanted to portray a perfect image. Mm-hmm. She had the beauty pageants, that's what she did. Mm-hmm. She also tried to portray that, JonBenét loved it, but it's really you. Mm-hmm. Same with the dolls. Right. So it's like she was always about the image. So she was completely fine with going along with that. I'm sure they had an unspoken thing, and it's the same thing with him, where it's like, obviously Patsy's not going to be complaining to people, John's never home. It's like, bitch, I'm fucking Tim Allen here. I'm not. You're fucking Joe. I'm out there getting the big bucks. And even when we have crises of conscience or crises of faith, like in that episode where Jill, Tim, Randy's questioning if God exists, and that's right.
Losing my religion. Season 7, episode 8. Hey, it's episode 8 now. Let's do that.
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that sparks a lot of conversations about God. Tim Allen, he seeks the help from a reverend or somebody. It's actually Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters.
Oh my God, that's right, Danny Aykroyd.
Danny Ack and Ack.
Before he got his ass done.
Before the BBL, which it looks great. It's just he's always gonna smell like ham.
Truck.
He's always gonna smell like ham. Once you get over the ham smell, I can get a chubby.
Anyway. He's like, I want a midget's ass, but proportional. It's like he showed him. That's the picture he showed for his ass.
And it's like, you know what? This guy has his own vodka company. Give him the ass.
Oh, that's the one in the skull. That's right. I always see it, and I'm like, oh. And I forget that's Dan Aykroyd's. The one you always see in the skull.
Yeah, that's Danny Ack.
Which is like, is he good with the vodka? The celebrity vodkas are absolutely amazing. I love George Clooney, Casamigos.
He should make cognac.
So please reach out to us.
Yeah, Casamigos. Dan Aykroyd. You should make a cognac and call it Cognac-royd.
The Rock with his fucking dead eyes.
Isn't that funny?
Wait, was it?
Yeah, you paying attention, Bobby?
No, I just
you coming up with your
I
fucking
just
name?
asked you. What is it? What was it?
I want to know. The Rock's fucking tequila. That shit's disgusting. I was saying that Dan Aykroyd could come up with a cognac and call it Cognac-royd.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Cognac-royd.
But I don't think black people really like cone heads, so your market's getting kind of missed there.
As someone who is biracial, I love the cone heads.
That's like saying,
I love Jane Curtin. I love thinking about Jane Curtin's head.
Let's get Ed Sheeran to do fucking ads for Modelo.
Ed Sheeran, he looks like a fucking Muppet.
So Donna,
he's one of those Muppet people.
Oh my God, with the fucking Muppets, Donna. Yeah. After you experienced this whole episode with us, what are your feelings on John? You think he killed her?
I don't think he killed her. I think that he knows how she died. I think that he helped cover it up.
Absolutely. So we're on the same page here, Teddy? What do you think?
I mean, I think we're close to the same page.
For each piece of the puzzle, he just had a thing to come back for
he's CEO, ran for office at one point.
I definitely don't think he doesn't know nothing. You know what I mean?
For fucking sure.
And that's the issue.
Yeah.
It's like all you had to do is literally just be telling the truth. But you don't even tell the truth. You don't even tell the same truth.
It's a liar.
And we put it all together. Bobby, you found a lot of these main clips. And put them all in this place together is unprecedented.
Donna did a great job playing them.
And Donna, you did a serviceable job being there, clicking the finger button.
Thanks, Teddy.
And I did an amazing job.
You did so good, Teddy.
At being the most amazing analysis Bob Hoskins type of person.
Only asked for food 2 times.
I only asked for food 2 times, and I only peed myself just a little.
God damn it!
I only a little.
All right, we're gonna start sitting on a towel next time.
I told you that last time that you should be putting towels underneath me.
And what are we doing next time?
We're gonna put a towel.
No. What's the next episode?
Oh, the next episode is another theory episode.
Which one?
It is going to be the Patsy Ramsey theory.
Yeah, Patsy Ramsey. You excited? Donna, you know anything about Patsy Ramsey? Because you actually listen, right? Yeah, who's Patsy?
Patsy.
That's the mom.
Yeah.
That's the mom. The mom. I mean, mommy dearest.
Compelling.
I think she did it, but we'll wait for that.
Donna thinks the Patsy.
Whoa.
Donna.
All right.
Now she's got opinions.
Get fucking excited next week. We're doing it. All right. We don't do an outro, guys.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and take care of it.
All right. Hey, we'll do it. You start first too, and Donna, make sure you jump in at the end there.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. I'm Teddy Ronald Reagan Desmecchia.
And I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
And this is
JonBenét Today.